Hey guys, today I want to share with you something that, I try to share sometimes with people that are spiritually disinterested. I don't know what percentage of people you come across that are spiritually disinterested when you're trying to talk to them, but I'd say for me it's, probably close to 80% or, a very high percentage of people when I bring up stuff that they're just kind of like, whatever. And sometimes we just feel like, all right, well, I can't really share anything with this person. And so I came up with something and I thought, this could work. And, you judge for yourself, but it's just a small thing I call the parable of the termites that I share with them. Just a kind of like a food for thought kind of thing. And so the basis for this, before I don't tell them this verse, but this is the basis for my thought. When I look at Hosea, there's chapter 13. It says in verse 12 and 13, I'm just going to read this for food for thought for you. The iniquity of Ephraim is bound up, his sin is kept in store. The pangs of childbirth come for him, but he is an unwise son, for at the right time he does not present himself at the opening of the womb. And so this verse just kind of clicked in my mind, this idea that, there is wisdom in seeking the truth. This is a truth that most people don't acknowledge. And this is what I'm trying to communicate with the parable. And so it's this idea that, when I think of birth, I think of the spiritual birth. Jesus talks about it in John 3, right? Being born when he's talking to Nicodemus. And you think about this idea that physically you don't really have a choice about being born. The birth pang, the childbirth pangs come, and the womb is tightening and basically forces the child out. The child doesn't really have a choice at that point. But spiritually speaking, there is a choice. And what child would be born if they had a choice? Childbirth is not a pleasant thing for the child to go through. It's pretty dramatic. Yeah, they got to go through a small space. Think about where they were before. They're in this warm environment where there's the convenience of getting all your food and oxygen through this nice tube. They're protected, comfortable. They're used to this. And now they've got to go through this painful process of childbirth, or they're squeezed and all this. And then when they're out in this new world, which is unknown to them, one of the things we dislike the most is just kind of the fear of the unknown. That there's all these demands that are placed on them, right? They have to now breathe. There's this bright lights. They got to use their eyes for the first time. It's cold out here, and so. There's a lot of things that, if given the choice, I don't think any infant would really choose to go through birth. And yet, spiritually, there is a choice. And oftentimes, God has to use something like the equivalent of birth pains. We go through some people go through some really difficult things that's what drives them to God, that otherwise they wouldn't go to Him. And so, the thing I like to point out from this verse is just this idea that there's wisdom in seeking the truth. And most people don't believe that. So I'll start out by saying, I got a story for you. And the idea of the story is, the moral of the story is there's wisdom in seeking the truth. And a lot of people, that makes sense. But I say, you sound like you agree with that, but let me share something else with you. Do you agree with this? The idea that ignorance is bliss? They say, yeah, I agree with that too. Well, do you know that those are diametrically opposed, right? There's wisdom in seeking the truth, and there's ignorance is bliss. Those things are opposite, right? You're not going to do both. And so, this story, let me just share with you this little story, this little parable that I call the parable of the termites. And so there was a guy who showed up at a neighborhood, and he went door to door, and he just started telling everybody that he was there during the construction of all the houses in this neighborhood, and he just wanted to let them know that there were termites throughout all this construction. And some people responded in different ways. Most people said, "Oh, this guy's loony," and they didn't believe him. They just went back to their lives. Or he's just looking for money. He probably belongs to a termite business. And then other people said, okay, I'll look into it, but then never really did. Other people most people just like ignored him. And then other people said, I'll look into it later. And then they forget. And they just go back to watching TV or whatever. And then they forget about it. And then, there were a couple people that took what the guy said to heart. And they said, maybe what this guy is saying is true. And so what they did, they didn't just take him at his word. They went and they actually investigated, what his claim was. So they went and around the house looking for signs of termites, maybe even opened up the wall to the really dedicated to look to see if there were some signs of termites in the infrastructure. And then if, the ones who found these termites, they took action then too. They called the termite, the guy who kills all the termites, and clears out the infestation, and their house is, fully restored. And they might even go around then and tell the rest of the houses, hey guys, we did find termites. And again, the same thing happens where some of them are like, yeah, I don't know, maybe your house, but not my house. And so this thing some people accepted it, some people not. But then one day, I live in Florida and there are hurricanes. And so one day a hurricane comes and it's just really traumatic with all the wind and everything. And the houses that had the termites, were weakened in their infrastructure. Some of them collapse. And so, the guy who's sitting on the couch, the roof collapses on him. Well, and some people that, they try to sell their house before the hurricane came, and then they have to have a termite inspection. It's found out that they have termites, and guess what? You can't sell that house. Sorry, you're in a bad situation now. It's too late. But the people who listened, the people who, when hearing something, sought the truth, investigated to seek the truth, and responded with whatever they found. Those are the people who remain secure. And so that's the parable that I have for them. And if they're really dense, I might even, drop the hint. Okay, just to let you know, I'm telling you now. I'm the guy on the block telling you that this world is spiritually, there's an infestation, there's corruption, there's termites in our soul. And the Termites guy is Jesus. If you're really not getting what I'm telling you, that's the straightforward thing. And so they can then do with that whatever they want. They can be the guy who goes away and says whatever, or they can kind of think about the parable. If they're smart, you don't have to lay it out for them. You don't have to tell them, this is the exact spiritual equivalent of what we're talking. You can just tell them there's wisdom in seeking the truth. And the people who believed that ignorance was bliss, I don't want to know if there was termites. Those people were in trouble when there was a reckoning, when that time came. And so that's just something that you can share with people who are spiritually disinterested. If you want, you can draw a little picture for the two people. You can draw the house like so, with the window and the door and all this, and this one is whole, and then you have the other house on the other side with another window and another door. And this guy, you can draw the guy on his couch, sitting on his little recliner, and just like this. And then you draw like a hole, and it just crashes down on his head, and the other guy is safe, hanging out in his house with a smiley face or something like that. So you can make a little drawing with this one as well, or you can just straight tell it as a parable. And so I hope this helps you just really have something, a little seed to plant with people who are spiritually disinterested. God bless you. I hope this works for you.